quick show of hands. Who here in the room has actually heard a wave before? Nice, good. Just Billy. So following Billy Gregory is a task in itself, and Billy knows his stuff, and he's a great presenter, and he had a lot of great information to share with everybody. So again, thanks Billy, that was awesome. So this is about beating the tsunami with a wave. And so to me, wave is the lowest barrier to entry for testing your web content for accessibility. So before we get started,
I'm having a seizure.
I am on the wrong slide. Okay, sorry for the technical difficulties. We're good to go. This is talking about beat the tsunami with a wave, and by wave I'm talking about the web accessibility evaluation tool that's made available by WebAIM. WebAIM is a non-profit accessibility agency based out of Utah, and WebAIM itself is an acronym. It stands for Web Accessibility in Mind. So, who am I? I am a transplanted Newfoundlander. I'm a proud father, and I'm prone to embarrassing my wife at live sporting events. Like, that's cool and all right, but we're here to talk about focusing on accessibility. So, to get there, I wanted to tell a little bit about my own story. I've been a developer since 1999. I've worked at all kinds of sites, big, small, e-commerce sites, multinational sites, Mitsubishi Motors, Yamaha, Haynes, Mastermind Toys here in Toronto. And that all changed when I worked for an agency in we were the agency of record for Bank of America. Working for Bank of America, everything we produced had to be accessible. We have 5 offices in North America, and I was the first developer added to this account, so I, by default, became the accessibility guy. And I was like, uh-oh, what's accessibility? And I had to learn it all from the beginning. So it was a real game changer for me, personally. I had the opportunity to go to Utah and receive training firsthand from the people at WebAIM, and that really changed my perspective, changed my career, changed my attitude about web development. I went to their experience lab, and they have a deaf tester there, a blind tester there. And I went out and introduced myself. I shook his hand, said, "Hey, no, don't tell me your name. Just give me your name badge." So I gave him my name badge. And he scanned it on his little Nokia Symbian phone. He goes, "Oh, hi, Patrick. Pleased to meet you." Mind blown, right there. It was pretty wild. So fast forward to the present. I'm a senior developer at CBC. Wonderful corporation that I hope you all support. Okay, so what about this tsunami? Accessibility is not a question of if it applies to you, it's going to be a question of when it's going to apply to you. There are multiple standards to the world. Here in our own backyard, we have the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, which is tiered rollout. 2015 is the next goal, and then it's 2010. The most recognized standard internationally is WCAG 2.0. WCAG actually, again, obviously is an acronym. It stands for Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. The original one was in 1999. It was refreshed in 2008. And just last fall, it was recognized as an international ISO. Some other ones I want to talk about, the British standards over in the UK, BS 8878. All the websites and content, mobile and desktop, has to meet this standard. Our neighbors to the south, the 21st Century Video Accessibility Act, introduced by Obama in 2010, states that all multimedia online has to be accessible. Now there's a bit of push and shove about that. It's still a little bit in flux, but one of the major things to come out of that is Netflix is committed to having their entire library closed captioned by 2014. You think about that, the library of video that they have, that's a massive undertaking. So back to the tsunami. As we age, we we deteriorate. Our eyesight goes, our hearing goes, our mobility is impaired. And the baby boomers, they're living longer, they're working longer, they have needs for online services that offer them independence and make their life easier. So it's commonly referred to as the silver tsunami. I'm sure a number of you are familiar with that term. So today's goal, I want to introduce everybody to a free testing tool that anybody can use, and it's extremely easy to use. It's available to anybody, and it's extremely easy. So it's actually comes in 3 flavors. Like stick in the Neapolitan ice cream, we have there's a web version, a web-based that anybody can access. There's an API that you can register for and use that. And there's also a toolbar that you can download and use locally. So the web version, it provides different views. You'll see over here. We have styles, no style, strip the styling from your site. It'll also highlight the different contrast errors you have. When you wave a page, it'll take anywhere, depending on your interconnection, obviously. You get a little spinner on your site. Your site will show up to the right side, and this panel is active the entire time. So I'm going to do a demo of this next, actually, so you'll see it in action. It allows you to determine your target goal. WCAG has 3 levels. You can be A, AA, or AAA. It also has, I'm assuming, this is bad to assume, but because WebAIM is based in America, they also include 508 in there as well. 508, I didn't mention that. 508 is the American Federal Act for Accessibility. Any federal agencies that develop web content has to be accessible, as well as any agencies that work for them or you build content for them. There's also a big refresh coming on 508. It hasn't been updated in, the date escapes me, but it's definitely been 15 years. So in web time, 15 years is pretty much infinite. So, you go down, we get the flags. It'll highlight the errors, the information. It'll tell you what the errors are for. It allows you to, it maps instantly to the specifications. It tells you why this is important, what the checkpoint is. And then the last one right here, it shows you your document outline. Billy was talking about headings earlier, and this will reveal your heading structure of your website immediately. So it's a fantastic tool. It's free. It was just updated last year. It was in beta for a while, and at CSUN this past March is when they did their official launch for this tool. So we're going to do a demo. I decided it'd probably be a fun idea to wave the meetup page for tonight's event.
Website.
So I'm just going to bring up Firefox here. Bear with me for a second. Going backwards, it's a little odd. So wave.webaim.com. Anybody can access that. I'm just going to grab the URL. And I should have cloned the monitors instead of extending it. Have it in there. Smarter than I thought it was. So as you can see, it's now waving the page. It's using the server call. It's connecting to their wave engine right here. And we will see we have returned 240 errors, 274 alerts, 241 accessible features on this site. There are 295 structural elements. It makes 0 use of HTML5 or ARIA. There's 337 contrast errors, and we're just going to briefly go through that right now.
Now, sorry, can I ask a question? Would that be from meetup.com?
Yes, this is for meetup.com. It's not DevTO. So any site that uses the Meetup templating system is going to inherit these problems.
It's going to inherit these, okay.
Yes.
That's just that page.
It's just this page. Yes, exactly.
Wow.
So, but it's a little misleading, I'll be honest. There is a problem with the way they've done their right column. You can see we have 205 confirmation members tonight. So 205 of these errors are the same error repeated. So what this is right here, it's a link that doesn't have text, or if it's using if the image is a link, the image itself doesn't have link text. So that's one error, take 2 minutes to fix, and you will reduce your 240 errors down to 30. So that's just an example. It's an extreme number, and I just wanted to point out the. So you can use it. You can just use your mouse, and you can go and you click on, and you'll get a little overlay, or I'm waving the next page by the look at things. How about I walk through the panel over here first? So we can turn off all styling on our site. Basically, this is the sanity test that I do myself without Wave. Actually, one of the first things you should do when you're testing, you turn off your CSS, you turn off your images. I am going to destroy this 10-minute mark, so I'm sorry. So you can quickly toggle, see what your site looks like with styles off. Gives you your structure, does it make sense? The question earlier about do you want nav at the top or the bottom, this illustrates it right here. If you're visiting this site for the first time and you want to find out what your links are available to you don't want to go through all the content first and then get to the navigation. So we can turn the styles back on. Right here. And now we're going to show you the other view with the contrast. And my thumb. So we have 337 contrast errors. So there are thresholds for contrast. For small text, it's 4.5 to 1, and for large text, it's 7 to 1. These standards are also applicable to mobile. Mobile, because of its nature, they're more screen glare. You want to stick with the higher end for the spectrum because situational distortion, that type of thing. So the contrast errors, if I click on one of these, right here, very low background contrast between the foreground and the background color. So I click this for more information. It gives you the instant documentation, the standard that it maps to, and this will take you off to the W3 site, W3C, no, not W3 schools. It will take you to the W3C, the governing body for web accessibility initiatives. Okay. They're the people that develop the WCAG specifications. So as you go through here, you can, this is back to contrast, so I don't need to talk about 330 contrast errors. I think I made my point. So if we go over to the information, I talked about the filter, and you can apply WCAG A, single A, full means triple A. It means you want everything. The section 508. So if we were to change that filter, you will see, if I change it to single A, it'll instantly update the number of errors I get, unless they're all double A errors. So, as you're going through this list, I'm not left-handed, so I shouldn't try the left-handed. You can check off the different items and go through the list. You can scroll, but as you uncheck them, you can go through your list. So some other errors we have, missing alternative text. Your search form up here, you don't have a label for this. Search is pretty much, by nature, every site, majority of sites have a search. They don't have a label because it's implied explicitly. It's one of the few exceptions where you can omit the label, but you want to make sure that you're using the title attribute. Now, that's not a green light to go using title attributes because that's only one of 2 acceptable cases where you should be using title. The other being a iframe. Because if you don't have a title on the iframe, a screen reader will encounter that and they'll hear the source tag. So your HTTP, blah, 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 blah. Don't do that. I'm going to just show you quickly the mouse. So again, this is the document structure. Very important. It's the backbone. It's the structure of your site. It's what you build upon. it's not necessary to make sure you start at an H1, because a lot of time it won't be possible to do that, but you do want to follow the order sequentially. You want to have an H3 followed by an H4. It doesn't mean you have to start at an H1, but you want to make sure that, for example, we go from an H1 to an H5. Hi, Oscar. So we don't, you want to have a heading of, so we have H3, will you attend, 94 attendance. So it's okay, but it could be improved. So I just wanted to show the heading structure, how that's supposed to work. That is pretty much everything I've covered. I covered the documentation, the styles, the tabbing. Is this easy to use? Think you can use it?
Yeah.
Think you'll use it?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. That's the answer I wanted. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the slideshow. I think I am. So, oh, there we go. So, the Filebox toolbar, you may have web content that's not ready for prime time. You want to test it locally. That's where the toolbar comes in. It's Firefox only at the moment. They're working on a Chrome version as well. The big difference between the web version and the toolbar is the web version will not evaluate your scripting. So it's a big distinction. This will parse, both will parse the DOM, but this will not. This waits for your JavaScript to finish firing, and then it'll evaluate. So I'm going to go back again and quickly apply the toolbar onto the same site. There will be a little difference in the number of errors you will see. Again, it's dead simple to use. Click a button, it'll run. So we have 249 errors, which is actually pretty close. Again, you have the same features, a lot of the same features you'll recognize. Show these are all your order of your items that you're in there. You have a text-only version, which is different from the toolbar. Show your document outline, the same as I just showed you. Reset your page back how it was. And disable your styling, same feature as when you're looking at the different views. The nice part about this, you have an easy access to the icon guide. Obviously red is an error, yellow is an alert, and green are different accessibility features, be it Y area, be it alt text, be it your headings, or long description. So these are the icons that are used on both the toolbar and the site.
Ironically, not accessible.
Actually, that's not true. Not true. It'll jump you down to the list and it'll explain what the icon is.
I saw no silver and went.
So, the Wave API is new, relatively new. Last March they unveiled it. The cost is not free. It's the only service of the three that you have to pay for. But as you can see, based on the volume that you purchase, it ranges from 4 cents a credit to 0.25 a credit. You can customize it to return either XML or JSON. This is not available publicly on their site, but they do have started offering a beta standalone license that you can install on a Mac, Windows, or Linux machine. I emailed one of the developers yesterday just to confirm that I had the API information correct, and he said that recently they had one machine, an old Mac Mini, process 100,000 calls. No problem at all. So it's a pretty robust API. Different tools, you can spider your site, you can manage URLs, you can set up scan times. I suggest you look into it. It's an awesome tool. The people at WebAIM are awesome. So that's it for Wave. Some other testing tools I just wanted to bring to your attention. Your keyboard. Go to the meetup site, hit tab a few times, tell me where you are, because I can't. So there's no focus styles on there. Screen readers, as Billy talked about screen readers, you have JAWS, NDVA, which is free. And if you're a Mac guy, you just Command F5, and you'll get VoiceOver enabled. One thing about VoiceOver on Macs is by default, it will not go through links. You'll have to go through the settings and change it. It'll just do form controls. A couple of products that are developed by the company Billy works for, the Paciella Group, is the WAT toolbar. It's the Web Accessibility Toolbar. This is an IE-specific testing tool because real people use IE. Sorry. Color Contrast Analyzer, it's a little picker tool that you can put it over your site and it'll tell you the contrast, foreground, background. You can also upload pictures, you can change the style, you can test for the different type protanopia, the different types of color blindness. You can kill the contrast. Actually, that's a really good way to test your site, actually. Black and white, if you can read everything, you should be doing okay. FireEyes is a free Firefox plugin from DQ, which is another accessibility agency. Diagnostic CSS was developed by a colleague of Billy's, Carl Rhodes. It's a CSS that you can apply to your site instantly, and it'll highlight any accessibility errors you have. No Coffee plugin was developed by Aaron Leventhal, who is one of the original developers behind ARIA, the ARIA specification. It's cool to play with. It simulates different vision deficiencies. Kind of like the Color Contrast Analyzer, but you can also apply cataracts, different floaters, tunnel vision, those type of things. Very cool. And then you have Firebug, Web Dev Toolbar. You can use all those. Anything that's in the developer's toolbox, you can use those as well to traverse the DOM and make sure your content's accessible. And lastly, we have high contrast mode, similar to what Billy was talking about with knocking out sprites. If you turn your computer into high contrast mode, it will knock away your CSS background sprites. So you want to make sure you have an alternate for those as well. Some links, some useful links that I would think be useful for people that are new to accessibility. WebAIM, obviously, the W3C site. ATutor is from the IRDC at OCAD. They actually have a free online web accessibility course that'll walk you through the different versions of WCAG. Go to the site, it's on the left toolbar. It's a little old, but I mean, WCAG hasn't changed since 2008, so it's still relevant. Web Accessibility is a very good site, very robust in terms of the content it covers. WebEx is a great accessibility blog. And AccessIQ is another company from Australia that does a great job of organizing content about accessibility. So, my final words of advice, you are the most important testing tool. Testing tools will only reveal potentially 25 to, estimates vary, but 25 to 28% accessibility errors on your site. It is vital for a person to verify your testing. If you're tasked with testing, you have to be pragmatic about it. You have to offer solutions. Just to say, no, that's not accessible, that's not good enough. Nobody likes to hear no. You want to offer a solution. Twitter, the accessibility community on Twitter is fantastic. Use the A11Y hashtag. A11Y is actually shorthand for accessibility because there's 11 letters between A and Y in the word. Use that, that's what that is. So use that hashtag. If you have a question, tweet it. It's awesome. And everything's changing. 5 years ago, there was no iPhone. Android's new. It's constantly changing. Be a sponge. Just soak up what you can about accessibility. It's not hard, as Billy showed you in his 10 steps. And share what you know. So, thank you.